Welcome to the AI Business Academy. I'm James Anderson, and this is the very first lesson in a series designed to give business owners a clear, no-nonsense understanding of AI. No jargon, no hype, just plain English. Every lesson in this series tackles one core concept. We are going from A to Z, building your knowledge step by step, so that by the end you have a proper working understanding of AI and how it applies to your business. You do not need a technical background, you just need to be willing to pay attention for a few minutes each week. We're starting with the absolute foundation, the word that gets used constantly in AI discussions but almost never gets explained properly: algorithm. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Every tech article talks about algorithms. Every social media platform talks about their algorithm. AI tools run on algorithms. But what actually is an algorithm? Here is the thing. Once you understand what an algorithm is, everything else about AI makes more sense. It's the foundation that everything else sits on. So let me break this down in plain English, starting with where the word actually came from. So let us start with a story. The word algorithm traces back to a Persian mathematician named Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. Yeah, it's quite a mouthful. Who lived in the 9th century. He worked in Baghdad at a place called the House of Wisdom, which was essentially the world's leading research institution at the time. Scholars from across the world came there to study mathematics, astronomy and science. Al-Khwarizmi wrote books on arithmetic and algebra that laid the groundwork for systematic problem solving, and I mean genuinely foundational. The word algebra itself comes from the title of one of his books. His name was Latinized into al-Khwarizmi, and over the centuries that evolved into the word algorithm. So the word we use today for complex AI systems actually comes from a scholar who lived over 1,000 years ago. I think that's worth knowing. It reminds you that none of this is as new or as mysterious as the tech industry wants you to believe. Now here is what matters for your business. Al-Khwarizmi did not invent a single answer to a single problem. He created a system, a framework. He took messy, real-world problems and turned them into step-by-step methods anyone could follow. His book contained over 800 practical examples for business and legal problems of the time. Things like dividing inheritance, calculating trade payments, measuring land, real everyday problems that merchants and landowners needed to solve. And here is the part that blows most people away. Algorithms existed long before computers. Long division is an algorithm. Euclid's method for finding the greatest common divisor of two numbers, developed over 2,000 years ago, is essentially an algorithm. Navigation tables that sailors used to cross the oceans were algorithms. These are step-by-step instructions humans followed by hand for centuries. A computer just follows them faster. So here's the formal definition. An algorithm is a finite set of well-defined instructions to solve a specific problem or perform a computation. Every algorithm follows a three-part structure: input, process, output. You start with the information, you apply a method, and you get a result. Now, I want to clear up something that trips a lot of people up. An algorithm is not the same as a program. An algorithm is the logic, the method, the approach to solving the problem. A program is the code that implements the logic on a computer. Think of it this way. The algorithm is the recipe. The program is the act of cooking. You can write the same algorithm in 10 different programming languages, just like you can cook the same recipe in 10 different kitchens. The logic stays exactly the same. Here's a simple example. Think about a thermostat. The input is the current temperature in the room. The process is comparing the temperature to the setting you chose. The output is the heating turning on or staying off. That decision process is an algorithm. Simple, rules-based, and running in millions of homes right now. No AI, no machine learning, just a set of instructions doing exactly what they were designed to do. Now here's the distinction you need to understand. There's two different types of algorithms running in business today. First, a rules-based algorithm. These follow fixed if-then logic that never changes. Your email spam filter from 10 years ago worked this way. If an email contains certain words, it moves it to spam. Same rule every time, forever. It doesn't learn, it doesn't adapt, it does exactly what someone told it to do. Second, machine learning algorithms. These improve by finding patterns in data rather than following fixed rules. Your modern spam filter learns from which emails you mark as spam and which ones you don't. Over time, it gets better at predicting what you want to see and what you do not. It adapts. And we'll go much deeper into machine learning in a future lesson. The question you should have in the back of your mind with any AI tool is simple. Is this following static rules, or is it learning and adapting over time? That single question will come up again and again as we go through this series. And it is the most useful filter you can apply when someone is trying to sell you a piece of technology. Where algorithms already sit in your business. Let me walk you through where algorithms are already working in your business right now. Probably without you even thinking about it. Open your current CRM system. When it scores leads based on how likely they are to convert, that is an algorithm. It takes information about a prospect, things like how often they visit your website, whether they've opened your emails, what industry they're in, and it runs all of that through a set of rules or a learning model. The output is a score that tells your sales team who to call first. That is input, process, output, and action. And if it gets a score wrong, your sales team wastes time chasing the wrong prospects. The algorithm matters. Your accounting software, when it categorizes transactions automatically, that is an algorithm. You import a bank statement and the software looks at each transaction, matches it against patterns it's seen before, and decides whether it's office supplies or travel expenses. The more transactions it processes, the better it gets at guessing correctly. That is a learning algorithm at work. But if it miscategorizes a big expense, your books are wrong and your accountant has questions. The algorithm matters. Your email marketing platform, when it decides what time to send your campaign for maximum engagement, that is an algorithm. It analyzes open rates across your subscriber list, looks at when different segments tend to read emails, and picks the optimal send time. You did not set that rule. The algorithm figured it out from data. Your bank's fraud detection. Every time you make a card payment, an algorithm checks the transaction against your normal spending patterns in real time. Unusual amounts, unusual locations, unusual time of day is enough to flag a trigger and the transaction gets blocked. But that is an algorithm making a decision about your money in milliseconds. Get it right and you're protected. Get it wrong and your card gets declined when you're trying to pay a supplier abroad. Stock reordering. Many inventory systems use algorithms to monitor stock levels and trigger purchase orders automatically when quantities drop below a threshold. No human checking a spreadsheet. The algorithm handles it all. The point is, you're already trusting algorithms with real business decisions. You have been for years. The AI revolution is not about algorithms appearing in business for the first time. It's about algorithms getting much, much smarter, and also about this channel is about you essentially building your own software and your own algorithms so you have full control over your data and your security in your business. But smarter does not always mean better, and this is something every business owner needs to understand. In 2018, Amazon built a recruitment algorithm to screen job applications. It trained on 10 years of hiring data. The problem was that most of these hires had been men. So the algorithm taught itself to penalise CVs that contained the word woman, as in women's chess club or women's college. Amazon scrapped the tool, but the lesson is important. Algorithms learn from data you feed them. If that data has biases baked in, the algorithm will amplify those biases at scale. It will not question the data. It will not flag a problem. It will just do what the patterns tell it to do, faster and more efficiently than a human could. That is not just a big tech problem. That is a problem for any business using learning algorithms. And it's why understanding the basic matters, even if you never write a line of code. Most of the conversation around algorithms and AI is dominated by big tech and big corporations, and that can make it feel like this stuff is not for you, like it's only for companies with massive budgets and data teams. But here is the thing that has changed. It is a big deal. Traditionally, building your own algorithms meant hiring data scientists and software engineers. That was the barrier. The barrier has now come down dramatically over the past 6 months. What has changed is access to large language models. Tools like ChatGPT and Claude have made it possible for business like yours to start building your own data without needing a computer science degree. So what does this exactly look like in practice? Let me give you 3 examples. First, your customer data. If you have emails, invoices, support tickets sitting in folders, that is an untapped resource. You can use an LLM to read through that data, identify patterns, and build an algorithm that automatically sorts new inquiries and spots customers who might be at the risk of leaving. Second, your internal knowledge. Every business has procedures, notes, and know-how scattered across different people's heads and computers. You can feed that into an AI system and build something that answers questions for your team. How do we handle a refund? What is the process for onboarding a new client? That becomes searchable instantly. Third, your operations data. Sales figures, inventory levels, staff schedules. If you are measuring it, you can start building algorithms that predict what comes next. Not guesswork, but informed predictions based on your actual patterns. The key shift here is this: you are no longer dependent on third-party tools that were built for generic use cases. You can build your data for your business at a fraction of what it used to cost. Is it free? No. But it's affordable. You might be looking at a few £100s to get something basic up and running, or a couple of thousand for something more useful. Compare that to the old way, and this is a completely different conversation. The question to ask yourself is this: what data do I have that I am not using? And that is where the opportunity is. So let me leave you with 3 things to take away from this lesson. First, the mental model. Anytime you hear the word algorithm, just think a set of instructions that takes an input, follows a process, and produces an output. That's it. No mystery, no magic, just logic. Second, the filter. When you are evaluating any piece of business software, ask one question. Does it follow fixed rules, or does it learn from data? Most of the tools you already use are in the first bucket. The new wave of AI tools sit in the second. Knowing which bucket you are looking at changes how you evaluate the tool, what you pay for it, and how much you trust its outputs. Third, the data principle. A tool that learns is only as good as the data it learns from. Good data in, good decisions out. Bad data in, bad decisions out. But at scale and at speed. This is why understanding algorithms matters, even if you never touch the technology yourself. You do not need to become a technical expert. That is not the purpose of this channel. But knowing these basics puts you in a stronger position than most business owners who are already spending money on tools they can't properly evaluate. So to distill this whole lesson down to one line, an algorithm is just a set of step-by-step instructions that solves a problem. That is the foundation everything else in AI is built on. That is your starting point. Now you know what an algorithm is when you come across the term.